Hey, Keith, thank you for joining us today. As a way to get us started, why don't you give us some background on yourself?
Hey, Pat, thanks so much for having me on your podcast today. I don't want to come out of the gates, guns blazing at you just right out of the gate. But when I agreed to do this podcast, I was under the impression I was going to get a plane ticket. I was going to get flown to California, where you're at. I was going to get to come to your studio, sit in maybe in a leather couch, have my own microphone, maybe my own headset like you have there. Instead, I'm sitting here in the Northwest. If I move these curtains, it's dreary, it's dark, and I kind of feel like it was a little bit of a bait and switch. So I had green room, plans. I had some green M&Ms I wanted and different things like that. So here I am. Maybe when does this happen? When do I get on a plane and get to fly?
Well, if this goes viral, man, maybe we'll get you down here pretty soon. So, yeah.
I'm going to do my best on that thing because that's kind of what I was thinking. A little bit about myself, Pat. Good morning here in the Northwest. My name is Keith Rust. I've been with Bunzel on the redistribution side for 27 years. I am a little bit about myself as I'm married. I'm married to a wonderful woman that puts up with all my tomfoolery and all my shenanigans for the last 21 years. She's the backbone to what I do, and she has given us two wonderful children. Got a son down at Oregon State in his second year. And between all of the social things he's doing, I think he studies on occasion. Yeah. So that's, he hits the books. And then I've got a daughter that is a senior in high school, and she is working her way to the college that she wants to choose. And, we're starting to talk about that word, empty nest. And I think you probably are familiar with that word. And, a lot of people say, aren't you excited? Aren't you ready? This is going to be wonderful. And frankly, the chaos, the noise, I like it. I'm kind of addicted to it, because I got a 20 and 18 years of just craziness. And so as this stuff starts to wind down, it's kind of like, oh, the silence. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. So,
well, I'm sure you'll fill your time with that. So I guess after being married that long, your wife did approve you being in sales, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. She's had to deal with all those highs and lows that we go through as salespeople, so absolutely.
Yeah. So where did you get started in sales? R3, or did you do before that, or what?
Well, we go way back, Pat. I mean, you think about sales, you think about your life and kind of, what characteristics do I have? Are they going to take me to the right career? Are they going to take me to the right spot? A lot of times people in their careers are like, man, I'm miserable. I'm a round peg in a square hole. I don't know how I got here. For me, it started at an early age. It was about 8 years old. And I was working at a summer camp. My dad ran a summer camp, and I bought a snow cone machine. And that's where this is where this whole concept of sales and everything, and my love for it, my desire and my energy all started. And, I learned words like ROI. I didn't know the word ROI back then, but I got a snow cone, and this cup cost me 4 cents, and the ice is free. And wait a minute, syrup is 6 cents, but I can sell it for $1.25. Wait a minute. This is too good to be true. And here I've got a captive audience. I got kids with money. And so this is where things started developing. Oh, wait, syrup is going to go up in price. Well, we got to give a price increase. I mean, these are early started developing in me. And I took that on to kind of my later teens, where I got a little bit into retail, which is tough work, man. Retail's crazy. And I admire all those people in retail. It breaks down those walls with, hey, go talk to that customer. I don't want to. Well, go talk to them. Okay, well, you start breaking down the fears that you have in selling. From there, I moved to a redistribution company not named R3 for 3 years. And it was kind of a competitor of R3's. And then I saw, hey, I can get on board with the big dog. I can hitch my wagon to this company. They're going to hire me. Oh my goodness. Are they crazy? And they hired me, and 27 years later, I called Bunzel, just like the Northwest, my home. So start early for me, Pat.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing what the ROI that early in life, that's pretty good as young Keith. You mentioned something about characteristics. What are the characteristics you think that people in sales need?
Oh man, I think there's a lot of different ones. I think one of them that comes to mind immediately for me is passion. I think you can't be in sales and not have some sort of passion for what you do. I think you want your customer to see that passion. I think the problem sometimes with passion, though, is turning it off. Any salesperson or anyone that's really passionate about their job, and I always go back to sales because that's what I do, but probably find themselves at like 4 a.m. looking up at the ceiling going, oh, man, forgot to send that email. Oh, that PO, I still have it on my desk. I didn't give it to him. And these are the kind of things, these are the blessings. And of course, also the curses that come with
right.
being a rep and having that passion.
And that never ends. I mean, as a salesperson, the passion's always there, the late nights, not sending off that email. I mean, that's what drives most people, especially in sales, is that passion.
Absolutely.
Early in your career, did you have any type of process, any skill that you thought, just besides your passion, that separated you from others?
Well, Pat, you did early. When you say early,
or any part of your career.
Yeah, well, early, what comes to mind is, show up and throw up. I mean, that's the thing that you do early on, right? It's trial and error, and you're like, I'm just going to go in here and cannonball and see what happens. That's the early days. Some of the things, though, I would tell a new sales rep that's coming into the business is, not everybody's organized. It's a hard thing to have as a character trait. Not everyone's ready and plans their day out, perfectly. Give me a sales plan, give me it by the minute. But try to be organized. Have a goal in mind when you walk into an account. Okay, so make it simple. What am I going in here to accomplish today? Let's make it as simple as that. And when you walk out, you say, what did I do? Did I accomplish it? And if I didn't accomplish it, what do I need to do? What are those next steps? So it's just breaking it down. What am I going in here trying to do today? So.
Yeah. I think early on, very much earlier when you're in your early years as salespeople, that, the whole show up and throw up scenario does happen because you so want to sell something. We sell stuff. We sell lots of items in our profession and, a lot of SKUs. And so we want to be able to get out there and sell quickly and get that sale because we love that the feeling, the adrenaline rush that we get. A lot of times we make that mistake early on in sales that, we come into a customer's office and we put on the sales voice. We go from conversationalist to more put it on the sales phase, the sales voice. And I think that turns off a lot of customers. Do you think that to be true or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it definitely can turn it off. You start going with your odds are, like, what is my expectation here and not theirs? It's not walking around. Things changed for me, and we get into this a little later. Things changed for me when I started actually going into what is a customer listening to? What is the customer hearing? For me, one of the hardest parts of the selling cycle was just having patience. You talked about that a little bit about it's going in and saying, I know what you want, customer. I'm ready to sell it to you today. I know my price is the best. I think of a situation where we used to have this time when we had she hags and B hags. You remember that, Pat?
Yeah, I do.
There were small, hairy audacious goals and big hair. And we had these goals that we'd set in front of us. And, the patience, it takes some patience to stop and follow the procedures to get that goal. I have one, sounds almost like a setup question, but it just happened. So it's very relevant. I had a goal when I was at the previous redistribution company that I worked for 3 years. It was a manufacturer that I wanted to sell this big high profile customer that I work with R3 now. When I started, I walked in and I was confident I'm going to get this manufacturer. It is a big goal of mine. I'm the man. I'm going to get this done. I will tell you, I tried. I tried with the manufacturer. I tried with the customer. I tried to get them to believe that we were the company for this line. 27 years later, Pat, it was a big, hairy, audacious goal. And 27 years, here we are, December of this year. We're doing this now. We sent our first PO to this high profile customer. I want to say the number, so I'm going to. It was a $250,000 distribution. First one.
Right.
It took 27 years. On the contrary, at the same high profile customer I was in, I had a manufacturer rep come in. lacking patients. He had a 3.5 truckload order. He had about 75, 85 pallet order. I'll never forget this. And he came in the foyer. He flew into town. He was excited. All I got to do is just pick the PO up, got to dot a couple I's, cross a couple T's. It's done. It's done. We walked downstairs and he got excited and he started presenting some new things and he started presenting some new pricing and the wheels started coming off the bus and the train started coming around sideways and we walked out with nothing. And literally we came down and picked the PO up and we walked out with nothing. So, to me, patience is an attribute we all have and you got to develop in this business because it's going to take some time to go through that selling process and cycle.
Yeah. So years ago, what skill did you not have that you possess today besides patience? Is there anything else that you look at now and go, wow, I wish, I hear the story a lot of times that people go, and I say it all the time too, is that I sold a lot differently when I was in my 20s and my 30s. And when you get to your 40s, you get a little older. Of course, I'm older, but it's just that you tend to learn more, obviously. And
Sure.
The way you sold in your teens is different than where you sell today. Would you say that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll probably not answer the question exactly the way you asked it. It's always that adage when you go into I haven't been in an interview for a job forever, but it's what is your weakness? Well, I work too much. I work too hard. But I will tell you that I took a course with Bunzel, with R3. They sent me off. They said I needed some training. Apparently, Keith needs training. We got to get him some training. So they sent me to this course called Ignite. And it was fantastic. It was unbelievable. I learned a lot of things, but the one key thing that I took away, and I use it, I think about it almost daily. You've taught the courses I'm talking about. It's the Clifton Strength Finders. And what I find amazing about this is a lot of times we dwell on that weakness. You asked me, what are your weaknesses?
Yeah.
I got a lot of them. I got a ton of them. And, sometimes I think we end up dwelling on these weaknesses. We say, I'm not good at this because all of our lives, you go to play if you play sports or you work at jobs early on, you're at Taco Bell, you know what, you're not doing a good job at the front. You know what, your shot is really crummy. You need to bring your elbow in. And you know what, it starts to become you. You're like, I'm not good at this. I can't do this. And instead of, looking at the things that you do positively, you forget about those. You're over here trying to work on the things that you're not good at. And yeah, I've got things I got to work on. And these are things that you still need to focus on. But the thing I always tell folks is after going through this course, what are the things that you do great and work on even being greater at them? And that's kind of the shift that I moved away from on, what, I got all these things I'm horrible at. I like to think about the things I actually do well. One of the things that came up about me was I'm positive. So you know what? I've already separated myself from the herd and I'm a little bit of more of a positive person that what I found out than the average. Be more positive. Yeah, make yourself really stand out. So take those character traits and really, work on developing them even more.
Yeah. You just said it right there. A lot of times as sales leaders in any organization, no matter what company it is, whenever they have the individual contributors or salespeople, they want to focus on the negatives and the weaknesses where it should be the strengths. And I want to go back to Clifton Strengths, which is a book that's designed around, you focusing on your strengths. And I think that's very important because the assessment that you take with the book, and takes a few minutes to take the assessment, it really, highlights out of the 33 strengths that you can have, it highlights the 5 that you're really strong in. And that's what you should focus in. That's what you should go to your sales leader and say, here's what I do best. And here's where I want to spend my time making this worth it, because I'm not a financial person. I'm not, this or that. I want to focus on these areas. And that's where I think once you come to that realization where your strengths are, that's where you should focus all that energy, right?
Absolutely. And it was amazing takeaway.
It was profound to me when I took that assessment. It was everything I thought about myself, but even more. And that's where I started diverting my whole energy toward what I do good, not what I do bad. And, you're always going to try to work on that, but it never sometimes happens. What is the hardest part of the sales cycle for you on the distribute and the RD side?
Well, I talked a little bit about it. I think patience, I obviously is one of them. I mean, you're anxious, you want to sell. We have a company that's equipped that gives us the tools. I mean, we're couldn't be more happy with the decision I made for the last 27 years. We have a lot of things to offer. So
Right.
what's the hardest part about selling? Sometimes it's me. I get in the way of a lot of stuff I do, but it's just having the patience and having that ability to wait out, figure out what you're doing, doing wrong. I sometimes think of selling. It's a little bit like I use sports all the time. So, you see the football players and they're like, hey, I love this game. I play it for free. I can't believe I'm getting paid. It's a game. It's amazing. I think a little bit like that with sales, and it's a game. I do want to get paid. I don't want to do it for
Right.
free like they do. I don't like it that much, but it is a game, and I think of like always that analogy about getting in the end zone. It's strategizing. What do I do? This is going to be a tough situation. They've got our backs against the wall. How do we work together? And sometimes it takes a team effort, like in sports, and sometimes you need people around you to help get you there. Pat, example. You're the coach. You're in the Super Bowl. You're on the 3-yard line. You got Marshawn Lynch standing behind you, and you're trying to make a decision. You need a touchdown to win the Super Bowl. What are you going to do, Pat? Are you going to hand the ball to probably one of the 50 greatest running backs of all time? Or are you going to pass it? What are you doing in this situation, Pat?
Yeah.
Asking.
Hand off. Yeah. Yeah. Hand off, right?
You're going to hand off. Well, you know what? They could have used you on the sidelines. Pete Carroll could have used you because they lost the Super Bowl. We know what happened. I know that a lot of people in Seattle are probably not going to talk to me if they see this podcast now, but it's taking that strategy and saying, you know what? That didn't work. That's a mess. And they didn't get another shot at it. They lost the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots. But you know what? You get back up, you figure out what it takes, and you figure out where you're missing, and you implement to try to get it across the line.
Sure. And everybody would say, hey, that's predictable. That's what they're going to do, hand it off to their best man. Sure. Another thing I find predictable in certain segments of our organization, let's say where you're in the redistribution side, very, very vertical. You deal a lot with food service, obviously all food service, and it's very price sensitive. How do you not fall in? You talking about prediction again, right? Price always comes up at some point in time in your conversation. It always has to. How do you not fall in the trap about being always deemed as a commodity salesperson or selling commodities? How do you get out of that trap?
I think early on, I remember, people I remember sitting with you and you say, hey, do a sales presentation. You came to one of our meetings. You get up and the first thing you want to do is I have the best price. Obviously, and when you have the best price, guess what? Well, why don't I have the sale? Why is it stalled? I have the best price. And I think the departure, when you get away from, it's not about pricing really at all. It sounds crazy, but it's really not about pricing. And you start to learn the customer's business, right? You start to understand what you get ingrained in actually what that customer, and every piece of business that you touch as a sales rep might be just a little bit different. So you got to go in and you got to learn it. So what are their hot buttons? What are the things that really are their focus? Price is absolutely important, but they may tell you they have a $25 case on toilet paper, and you may say, well, I got a 23, but you don't get the sale. Why does that happen? Well, maybe you're not talking to the right person either. And that's for another discussion. Right. It's, I always thought of myself as, I need to get in, I need to penetrate this account. I need to figure out how. It's that whole Trojan horse concept where I'm going to crawl inside the Trojan horse, just push me in. I need to just get inside the fortress, right? And once you get inside, right, where do I go? And, I found early on that concept of, I'm going to come right in with my price and my quote, lay it on their desk. It's not the angle here. Here's my toilet paper. You build from questions. You build from asking. You build from understanding. The more questions you ask, they'll work themselves right into the answer themselves. I mean, if you let them just do it, they'll work right into it, and I'm your solution. Going back a little bit to what I said about finding the right person, I think that's really critical here. We did take another course that I have a button on my cubicle wall, and it's who's Leo. And this is one of the greatest things I learned early on as well, because early on you say, hey, I need to go find the president. I need to go find the district manager. No, that's the person that makes the decision. And you give them a quote. Man, I know my price is better. I know I did a great job. Why am I not getting this order? And you didn't realize, but when you walked in and you met with the president, you gave him that pricing and you walked in and said, what's stalled here? He was picking up the phone. He's like, hello, hey, Phyllis. Phyllis, yeah, Keith, the knucklehead from R3. He came in here. Yeah, he's goofball. Hey, he gave me a quote. What are we going to do with it? It's on toilet paper. Yeah, it's a good price. Now, you know who he's talking to? He's talking to Phyllis. Who's Phyllis?
Right.
The lady that works in the media room. She's sending out the letters. She's deciding what we do with the POs. So these are the concepts that you early on you don't know. You think, hey, I'm doing the right thing, but it's taking time to be patient. Once you get inside that castle wall, you're hitting each department. You're hitting everybody. You're learning. They're learning who you are, and guess what? You're going to find Leo in a place you least expect it.
That and exactly right. And you want to be able, a lot of times we don't listen enough to the customer and they're talking to us. You alluded to that earlier about, their desired outcomes and also, being in their operating reality or putting yourself in your odds are versus a customer's odds are. And that's what's most important. Who do you normally seek out when you talk about the Leo? What's your process to seeking out Leo?
Well, obviously you want to start with, you want to find the decision maker, but who is that? I mean, we don't know, and that's the fun of part of the strategy and the game that goes into being a sales rep. So it's figuring out who it is. I mean, obviously you're going to talk to purchasing because you're going to think they might make the decision, but then you find out, no, the sales organization in this department actually tells purchasing what to do, or vice versa. Purchasing makes the decision for sales department. It's all, each organization is going to be different. So honestly, I can't give you, one place to start that works. I think you got to get in there and figure out what, where that Leo is.
Do you eventually get to the C-suite level very often? Or is that something that happens in your line? Because I know you do enterprise accounts for us as well. Enterprise being the more complex ones where you have 6, 7, 8, 9 different people, touch points that you have to meet. But what about the smaller accounts? I mean, do you reach that C-level suite customer?
Absolutely. And, I always think, it's that old adage, people, I might get asked by a new rep, how should I conduct this meeting? What should I do? I've got a C guy here, I've got an A guy here. And immediately you think, well, you better prepare better for that A customer, but that enterprise customer, you better have quite the presentation. And you go in and you find out they want to do it in bean bags. You're like, wait a minute, the enterprise customer in a bean bag here. Wait, I had this whole top to top presentation I was ready to give. No, they just want to relax with some soft music. Where you might have the C customer that says, you know what? I want to see every vendor. I want to know what I bought. I want to know. And so it just depends on your audience. I think there's some misconception that goes into, the size of the customer. The presentation needs to be different. It depends on who your audience is. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah. And knowing your audience. And that's not always easy, especially when you get into the enterprise accounts, the more complex broadliners that you deal with. I mean, there's so many different types of persona that you have to talk to.
Absolutely.
When a new rep comes to you, let's say somebody new comes to you or somebody that's, just been onboarded and they go, hey, Keith, I need some help. What typically do they want from you?
That's a great question. We have hired a couple here. You have actually done a podcast with one, Scott, goes by Biggs, does a great job. You want to be here just a mentor. Mentors have been a big part of my life, of course. And so you want to be available. Just, hey, I've been here a long time. What do you need? I've helped with emails. I've written emails and said, just send this email. This is, you want to help. You want to do anything you can just to kind of bring them along. It's the little things. It's talking to them about the Leos. It's talking to them about, hey, don't just run in with a price like you're mentioning today. And it takes years. It takes time. I had a lot of fails. Oh my goodness, I had so many fails. Those fails are what you need. Right. I think back on them, and I don't even want to say it. It's just embarrassing, some of the stuff that I did as a rep, thinking this is the right thing. And kind of, unfortunately, you can talk to a brand new rep and say, hey, this is what you need to do. But some of it, they need to find out. They need to go in and there have someone say, don't call me buddy. I'm not your buddy. Because I had that happen to me one time. And, and these are the things that stick with me and why, it's kind of moved me in the path I'm in now.
And to your point, in sales, you will learn more from your fails than you do from your successes. I mean, and not to say your successes aren't
Yeah.
important, but I think from your fails, like you said, I mean, that's where the learning comes from.
Yeah. And you know what? And the other thing I would tell a new rep is kind of relax. I mean, we're not, this is, you know, everyone says it, but we're selling toilet paper here.
Right.
This is not open heart surgery. And I think
Right.
sometimes we lose sight of that, right? We get real serious about this. We're like, oh my goodness, this job is, you know, it isn't. And we want to have fun. We want to be serious. We want to be focused, but at the same time, we want to be lighthearted. We want to have fun. And then that keyword fun sometimes doesn't get entered in. And you're like, wait a minute, aren't we, this is supposed to be somewhat fun. Aren't we supposed, and try to have that with the customer, have some things that maybe bring those walls down of that seriousness and have some time like that.
When you look at your mentors, you'd mentioned mentors, you have, you know, one mentor, multiple mentors, areas that you know that you have to bring expertise in.
Well, I would tell you mentors have been a big part of my business, or for me in this business. I would say to you about mentors that a lot of them that I had around, and Bunzel's been a great platform for me to work, because there are a lot of successful people. You know, a lot of them have gone on to be presidents, vice presidents, work at the corporate office. I even had a mentor that turned into a podcaster. That's crazy, right? He was a mentor of mine and he turned into a podcaster. So I'll inject that there. But,
Okay.
You know, so I do have a lot of people around me, and, you know, what do they say about being around successful people? What are you trying to get it to? You're trying to get it to rub off. When you're around successful people, you're around the people that are going in the right place. You know, you can learn from them, and you hopefully grab hold of them and have them drag you along, because you know, it's fun. That's what I think of when I think of mentors. Obviously, a bad mentor can also change in, and you got to take things from them. You know, you got to take, I'm not saying a bad mentor, but maybe a mentor that has different things that you can tweak and say, that's not my style, or that's not for me. So you can learn also in a negative mentor environment, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I always refer to that person as the anti-mentor, the one. And I've had a lot of mentors, anti-mentors in my life, where I go, no, that's not the person I really want to emulate. There might be one small quality you may have, I may want to use in my everyday life, but no. And you have to realize that. What if someone were, you know, just picture you and say, hey, the ingredients that Keith has as a good mentor, what would that be?
Well, you know, and I move this immediately over to sales. You know, what would differentiate me in this business and make me different? And I always say, and we had a meeting a while back, and I introduced this concept where you really only have to be a C plus, and I say sales rep, but I'll say employee. And this sounds horrible. I know this sounds horrible, but I'll get to it. You know, you have to just be a C plus rep. And if you're a C plus rep or you're a C plus employee, you're going to do really well in this business and any business you're at, because you're just a little bit above average. Now, what differentiates you is don't be a C plus, strive to be an A, strive to be a player. But, you know, in my world, what differentiates me is you want to respond to your customer. You want to do it in a timely manner. You want to learn their business. Let them feel like you know their business when you walk in the building. You know, show them new things. Get back to the customer quickly. Respond to email. Make them feel important. These are things, and if you do that, just those things lightly, you'll be a C plus. And oh my goodness, you're killing it. Look at this guy. Yeah. Like, it's half speed. What happens if you turn on the engine, you decide to be a B or an A player? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that's why I think you are so very successful at what you do and where you are with R3, is because of what you just said. If you want to move into preferred position with the customer, if you want them to come to you, first of all, for everything, where you are, when you're in preferred position, they come to you for everything, because you know as much or more about their business as they do. They respect you, you're a professional, and you do one thing and you do it very well. You know, patience is great, understand the business, but you listen. And a lot of times we don't listen, and you've got the great listening skills, because obviously you listen to the customer because you want to get to their desired outcomes, not yours. Don't sell them something, like you say, throw up and show up, right? Absolutely. Or show up and throw up. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I don't know that I have the magic potion to wave today to tell you what that unique skill is. If you're asking that question. I mean, you gotta communicate with your customer. You know, I remember, I think back, and a lot of times I'd always wonder why. Again, going back to that price, why didn't I? What did I do wrong? Why aren't they buying? Why? I mean, I remember people early on seeing buyers would get up and leave because they saw me coming. I was like, what am I doing wrong? You know, it's that old adage. So, you know, sometimes it's you, and sometimes you gotta tweak what you do. And sometimes it's, you know, it's not all about just pricing like we talked about. You gotta complete the sale and figure out what it is that's that hang up. So, and it is listening.
Listening
Absolutely.
and digging deeper,
Yeah,
like you
yeah. And I'm
mentioned.
talking a lot today, so I'm not showing my listening skills. So
No, you're doing great. What when you go to your sales leader, what are you typically going to that sales leader for? What are the issues that you have, or concerns, or even just more mentoring? What do you go for?
Yeah, I'd say mentoring. I say collaboration. You know, you want to collaborate with the customer. You want to collaborate with the crew around you. I mean, again, we got a lot of great salespeople and managers and customer service folks. And I mean, it's amazing the stuff you can get out of every department. I mean, you want to try to bridge all these departments together. A lot of them can at times can be adversarial, and you want to keep away from that. You want to learn things from each department, understand just like you would your customer. You know, customer, what, you know, sit on their side of the table. That's when things started shifting for me. Is when I started thinking to myself, what is the customer's mindset here? You know, and when I go to our sales group, it's the same kind of thing. You collaborate, you toss ideas around, you say, I'm having troubles here, I'm not able to get this. What would you do? And be open, advice. Be open to people giving you things to help your career. Because again, you're going to have some weaknesses. Goes back to that Clifton Notes. I got a lot of weaknesses. Help me. Surround yourself with excellence, with people that know what they're doing on things that you don't know. Be open to it.
Yeah. The collaboration, knowing when to pull in that mentor, when to collaborate, you know, on other issues, and bring in other people, because that's where you need and you learn from other people. And that's critical to do. Great conversation today, Keith. I loved, there's a lot of nuggets that you left in this conversation. If people are listening, they will pick up on that. Where do people go to hook up with you or to follow you?
Well, you know, my GoFundMe page is Keith Rust. Now, I'm getting sorry about that. I don't have a GoFundMe page. I'm on LinkedIn. You know, Pat, you did just tell me my LinkedIn page is a little weak, so I got to go work on that. But LinkedIn at Keith Rust. My email is Keith, KEI, .rust, RUST, at r3redistribution.com. Thanks for having me on, Pat. Enjoyed it.
You bet. Great times. Thanks.